When thousands of England football fans start chanting in perfect unison during a World Cup qualifier, you expect to hear support for their team. Instead, what echoed through the Barcelona stadium was something entirely different. 7,000. Voices sang in harmony, calling Keir Starmer a complete failure to the tune of KC and the Sunshine Band's disco classic. This wasn't random drunk behavior. This was organized, rhythmic political contempt with a soundtrack. The England versus Andorra match became secondary entertainment. The real show was the crowd's unified verdict on Britain's Prime Minister. When people travel internationally to watch football but spend more energy booing their own leader than cheering their national team, something fundamental has broken down. This stadium-sized rejection represented far more than casual dissatisfaction. Starmer promised strong leadership, clear vision, and transformational change for the Labour Party. What Britain received instead was a masterclass in political evasion. On the NHS crisis, he delivers rehearsed sound bites about values. Immigration discussions become careful dances around controversial topics. Cost of living concerns get buried under meaningless buzzwords without concrete solutions. The symbolism couldn't be more perfect. England played in a half-empty stadium, managing only a draw against tiny Andorra, yet fans ignored the disappointing performance entirely. Their fury focused solely on Starmer. This wasn't mere political disagreement. This was public humiliation on an international stage, broadcast live to millions. When asked about the chanting after the match, officials claimed they heard nothing. The entire stadium heard it. Television broadcasts captured it clearly. Socials. Media exploded with clips, yet somehow those in charge remained conveniently deaf to the overwhelming chorus of disapproval. Either they're attempting damage control, or they're genuinely disconnected from public sentiment. Some will dismiss this as typical football culture or harmless banter. That perspective misses the deeper significance entirely. This was a referendum, held in a sports stadium with pints raised and flags waving. When ordinary citizens start attaching your name to expletives in organized chants, you've moved beyond internet memes into genuine political crisis territory. The man who built his reputation on steady, calm leadership as an antidote to chaos has become the subject of mass mockery. He wasn't even present at the match, yet he dominated the headlines. That's not political power. That's becoming a national punchline with a disco beat. If you're finding this analysis eye-opening, make sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest political developments across Britain. The true scoreline that night wasn't England versus Andorra. The real loser was Keir Starmer's credibility. When crowds that should be singing about Harry Kane choose to call you useless instead, you've completely lost connection with the people you're supposed to represent. This connects directly to another revealing moment that captured Britain's frustration perfectly. During a live television broadcast, a well-known presenter reached his breaking point when faced with a Labour MP reciting empty platitudes about asylum policy. The MP insisted everything was under control, while reality painted a drastically different picture. Despite Labour's repeated self-congratulations, small boat crossings continue at crisis levels with no meaningful reduction. Ruthless trafficking gangs operate with apparent impunity, exploiting the government's obvious weakness and indecision. The presenter's blunt response wasn't personal emotion, it was the voice of widespread public disillusionment with dishonest claims and meaningless reassurances. This raises a fundamental question about trustworthiness. Can we believe anything this government says about illegal immigration, national security, or border control when their rhetoric seems increasingly detached from observable reality? British citizens bear the consequences of these failures daily. Recent maritime reports confirm that people smugglers are taking increasing risks with migrant lives, pushing overcrowded boats into dangerous channel conditions. 3 migrants died this week alone. While net migration figures show some improvement, asylum applications have reached record highs, with Pakistanis now representing the largest group of applicants. The government claims success in removing 30,000 people since the election, but critics point out that most removals were voluntary departures rather than enforced deportations. The real challenge lies in stopping the boats before they reach British shores, not processing people after they arrive. Current policies focus on creating safe legal routes and processing claims more efficiently. However, this approach fails to address the fundamental incentive structure. When successful asylum claims result in permanent residence and support, word spreads rapidly through social media back to source countries. The disconnect between official statements and public perception has never been more apparent. Whether through football stadium chants or heated television debates, ordinary British citizens are expressing clear frustration with current leadership and policies. This growing gap between government rhetoric and public sentiment suggests deeper problems ahead for Starmer's administration. When your own supporters start singing your political obituary to disco music, the message couldn't be clearer. Political recovery from this level of public ridicule requires more than policy adjustments. It demands fundamental changes in approach, communication, and, most importantly, actual results that match the promises made. When football fans start chanting your name in a stadium, it usually means you've made an impact. But when they're shouting, "You're a wanker in time" to disco music, that's not a tribute. That's full-blown national mockery with a backing chorus. This is exactly what happened during the World Cup qualifier between England and Andorra. The crowd wasn't just booing the team's lackluster first-half performance. Their jeers were aimed squarely at Keir Starmer, loud, clear, and unapologetic. When 7,000 England fans in Barcelona chant Starmer's "a wanker" to the tune of Casey and the Sunshine Band, you know respect has hit rock bottom. You can't blame the beer for this one. The chant had rhythm, unity, and pure contempt. This was a crowd unleashing political fury as if it were part of the official match program. Don't be fooled into thinking it was just a few drunk troublemakers. This was a stadium-sized verdict on Starmer's leadership, or more accurately, his glaring lack of it. When people turn up for football but get more fired up booing the prime minister than cheering the national team, you've lost the dressing room. That chant wasn't just crude, it was a political temperature check. And the result? Starmer's credibility just went to VAR and was caught offside. Let's talk reality. This is Keir Starmer, the man who promised strong leadership, clear vision, and a new era for the Labour Party. What did we get instead? Evasive answers, mixed messages, and a man who dodges questions like he's allergic to straight talk. NHS crisis? He recites a few vague lines about values. Immigration, he tiptoes around it like walking on Lego. Cost of living? He plays buzzword bingo without offering a single solid plan. Now even football fans, not exactly known for quoting Hansard, are singing in unison that he's useless to a disco beat. Don't ignore the symbolism here. England were playing in a half-empty stadium, scraping a draw with Andorra, and instead of grumbling about the game, the fans turned Starmer into the main event. This wasn't mere dissatisfaction, it was a public slap in the face. It was a nation saying, "We see you, we hear you, and we're not buying what you're selling." If you're finding this analysis eye-opening, make sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest political developments that mainstream media won't tell you about. When the manager was asked about it after the match, he pulled out the classic line, "I didn't hear anything." The whole stadium heard it. The broadcast caught it. Twitter exploded. But he didn't hear a thing. Either he's damage controlling or he's wearing AirPods. Even if he didn't catch the lyrics, he couldn't have missed the atmosphere. That crowd wasn't bored. They were furious. And their target was Starmer. Some will try to spin it as just football culture, just banter. Wrong. This wasn't banter. This was a referendum. Pint in hand, flag over shoulder. When the public starts attaching your name to expletives, it's not a meme anymore. It's a message. And that message is crystal clear. People are sick of vague political dances. They want clarity, courage, and conviction. Starmer has delivered none of those. The man who built his brand on calm, steady leadership as an antidote to chaos has now become the subject of terrace mockery. Think about that. He wasn't even on the pitch, but he was the headline of the night. That's not power. That's parody. The real scoreline on Saturday? England versus Andorra. Nobody cares. The true loser was Keir Starmer. Because when a crowd that should be chanting about Harry Kane decides to call you a wanker instead, you've completely lost the plot. You're no longer leading the nation. You're being booed by it. Loud, clear, and in perfect time. That wasn't just rejection. That was the demolition of a legacy. And the consequences are now plain for all to see. When your own supporters turn stadium chants into political protests, that's the most painful defeat of all.